Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode I'm continuing my magical journey into the wizarding world of Harry Potter with the fourth movie adaptation derived from the works of J.K. Rowling. That is of course the movie based on the fourth book in the Harry Potter series, the 2005 fantasy adventure Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, as directed this time around by Mike Newell. Now, before I get started, I just want to issue a disclaimer, as I've done for each movie so far. I can't comment on the movie with respect to the books, never having read any of them as the muggle I am. So, I'll be purely coming from the point of view of the movie itself and the overall Harry Potter movie franchise, rather than going into detail with regards to its closeness to the source material, which, as always, I have, of course, not remotely qualified, definitely not in this instance, to even attempt. So, as we now draw into our fourth year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, we are joined by student representatives from the Durmstrang Institute from Bulgaria and Bjelac Academy from France, as Hogwarts plays host to the prestigious and grueling Tri-Wizard Tournament. Selecting one student from each of the schools to compete in the competition, it sees each take part in a series of challenges designed to test their magical abilities and personal resolve to be crowned as Tri-Wizard Champion. Although younger students are not permitted to enter the tournament, somehow Harry Potter, as played once again by Daniel Radcliffe, finds himself selected to represent Hogwarts along with Cedric Diggory, as played by Robert Pattinson. A double entry for a school being unheard of. The games are gravely serious, and it is clear that there is more to Harry's entry than meets the eye. But the rules of the competition form a magical bond. Harry must compete, and so together with his friends Ron Weasley, as played by Rupert Grint, and Hermione Granger, as played by Emma Watson, and the rest of his classmates, Harry sets forth to conquer not only the fraught challenges that lay ahead, but also the pangs of young love, jealousy, friendship, and an old foe that threatens to bring an end to everything Harry holds dear. From the very offset, this movie is a complete spectacle. The bar for effects and awe within the franchise has certainly been raised once again, and the film opens with a statement that promises to tease and tantalise the ever-encompassing darkness that lies beyond the horizon in this magical world. Following the last two entries in the series, the movie dares to build this world even further, with an epically inspired scale bringing other cultures, realms and traditions into the mix. Embroiled with a very mysterious and enchanting feel, glimpses of other lands and faraway promise, something we haven't seen in the franchise to this point. The Tri-Wizard Games are of course themselves a focal point of the movie, and these are undertaken in spectacularly grand fashion. A sense of true tradition, if albeit brutal. The effects and the scope of the movie are simply inspiring, and everything is done in awe-inducing fashion that puts us right in the throw from the beginning, in a most engaging way. We hit back into this world with a bump, once back into that breach. The film has a very transitional feel, watching it in retrospect. The last two movies in the series had been progressively getting darker, but this opts to kind of bring back much of the wonder and the spectacle that we had experienced in the first movie, especially as we meet the students from the other schools participating in the tournament. What I do find with the movie, however, more so than any other entry so far, and speaking from somebody who hasn't read the books, there seems to be some fairly big chunks missing. The other films in the series were succinct enough that they felt complete. However, this feels as though parts are just kind of simply glossed over, and it feels like a few leaps of faith are made to kind of join these elements together. Some perhaps from a muggle's perspective that needed to be explained. The film also lingers quite a bit on the tournament itself. I mean, fair dues, it's what it's about, but and elements throughout the school year. That while serving to kind of further build up into the character's development and their motive, and their motive to kind of, it doesn't necessarily kind of serve to work towards the film's end game, which, if I'm honest, does kind of feel a little bit tagged on. There wasn't anything quite the same level of build-up, of even clues throughout the movie that we had seen before. As shockingly enjoyable as it is, It just doesn't feel earned. In an effort to kind of build conflict, many of the characters seem uncharacteristically confrontational. The film even seems mean at times and quite stereotypical. It becomes very much a coming-of-age story for the three main leads, but for me, as endearing as some of this actually is, I mean, we do get to see Hagrid, as played by Robbie Coltrane, in love, you know, with headmistress of I can't say that one no more, so than anything else, Olympia Maximum, as played by Francis Delatour. But indeed, for as endearing as this, you know, it feels very much like filler than anything to kind of really pull the movie forward. People are quick to kind of label Harry as a cheat, as he's picked for the tournament, including his friends, which it does seem at odds given that he's saved the school on at least 3 separate occasions to date. Nothing really speaks to his character, you know? The students kind of seem to go out of the way to belittle and tease Harry. Then overnight, he becomes a local sensation once again. Kids are fickle, eh? Then Harry looks like he's lost any inclination that he is indeed a wizard through most of it, getting by on the luck of the moment and the goodwill of his friends than any of the kind of cleverness and cooperative nature that we have seen previously. He looks lost and overwhelmed. But surely after everything he had been through up to this point would make the tournament seem like a walk in the park, right? I mean, in terms of characters, although it sets to develop them as individuals on a more personal level, it does feel somewhat like a step back from what we had in the first 3 movies. They feel like different people to some extent, and for me, this kind of grates a little bit as we're watching. Quite a lot of the chemistry that we'd kind of built and developed so far in the series just kind of seems to have been lost. But in saying this, and I know now I've got these irritations out of the way, and I mean, that's all they really are when all's said and done. Probably really kind of nitpicking when all's said and done. The movie is still another excellent entry into the franchise and wholly entertaining, you know? It has expansive scope and some amazing camera work. It had quite a few elements that to bring together, and again, being transitional in nature, bridging between kind of kidulthood and early adulthood, and not only having to deal with the diabolical plans of he who shall not be named, but also puberty and the trials of learning that the world in which we once knew was about to change forever. And in this respect, although I think it gets lost on some of these and stagnates for a time as it kind of mulls over some of them, the film still does a tremendously thrilling job of immersing us into this world once again. You know, it does that job correct. It's still a fantastically constructed and presented movie for what it does bring to the table. And like I've said already, the film is spectacular with a grand ideas, you know, that for the most part play out to tremendous effect. I have probably been a little bit too picky when all's said and done. I do like where this movie takes the series for sure, and the direction is absolutely brilliant. Totally sweeping and exuberantly indulgent. There's some wonderful new talent that joins the already top-heavy team. This time around, David Tennant, who plays the Death Eater. Brendan Gleeson, who plays Alvester Mad-Eye Moody, who takes over the ever-doomed role of Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher at Hogwarts. And British institution Roger Lloyd Pack, who plays the Ministry of Magic's International Cooperation representative, Barty Crouch, who adds some kind of brilliantly flamboyant flavour to the proceedings. The score is also rousingly fantastic too, this time penned by Patrick Doyle, who brings his own take to the franchise with his first and only score in the series. Having some pretty big shoes to fill, given that the movie maestro John Williams had penned the scores to the previous 3 movies. I think Doyle does a fantastic job at bringing us a score that remains quintessentially Potter, absolutely magical, whilst recognising the more personal and involved tones of the movie, capturing its scope and ambition, still more than a beautifully enchanting score. Overall, this is certainly a movie that more than captures the spectacular of the Harry Potter franchise, bringing us some amazingly considered world-building elements and individual character development. I think it had a lot of grand and enticing ideas. Some worked, some I feel fell short of achieving what was really needed to convey the movie's overall endgame and intent. But I can't deny it more than tried, and what we did get was still an enormously enjoyable movie that encompassed a lot of the themes and threads that served to bridge between the stories we had witnessed so far, and yet those still to come. In truth, there are some very endearing moments here, some unnerving ones too. It does just take its time to get to that point. It has plenty to say, it has plenty of insight into the characters, and the wizarding world at large, whilst for me, at the same time, having plenty of filler. The Triwizard Games are amazing and do provide a magical focal point, indeed, fantastically inventive, and indeed, in the end, who needs he who shall not be named when you have the anguish and fear of the school dance? Absolutely terrifying. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.